Hey everybody, welcome to another Training Thursday. It is very good to see you. This is being recorded on Anzac Day, so to all those people who have been to the dawn service like me, Anzac Day is a huge space and place for Australians and New Zealanders to commemorate the contribution that our military and others have had in our lives as Australians and New Zealanders so that we can have the freedoms that we have. And I have been part of a military family. I grew up as a RAF brat. So I'm really used to going to the dawn service, and it reminds me every year about the gratitude I have for actually being here, because without my dad being in the Air Force, I literally wouldn't be here. And it reminds me about all the things that I've learned in my experience in the military, in my experience in the Air Training Corps as a cadet. And there's so many different things and learnings that I've had from a background of discipline and commitment and integrity, and how to structure something that works with a team of people. And that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Hey, Alison. Hey, Sarah. I have had a little bit of space to be thinking about work and life, and how I wanted to really create something different in my business over this past, couple of long weekends and things. And I'm sure that you guys have had a chance to have some space with your families and otherwise. And I think that space creates an opportunity for some real creative kind of thinking to come through. And like I alluded to at the beginning of the video, that creative thinking comes from a lot of past experiences and then melds into something new. And one of the biggest things that I see a lot with practitioners is a sense of overwhelm and a sense of, I'm not getting anywhere, why aren't the clients getting in the door? Or I'm not getting anywhere, why isn't my thing selling? Or I'm not getting anywhere, why don't I have more people on my list or more in my opt-in? And one of the biggest things that I see is this heaviness that comes with that. And that heaviness and that overwhelm is like having weights holding us down. And we're out there trying to be the face of our business. And we're out there trying to be the face of health and well-being and welcoming. And we're all heavy with all of the things that we're doing and all of the things that may or may not be working in our mind, and all of the things and the time frame that we have in our head that might not be actually being met because it's just a time frame that we made up and it's not based on any facts. Yeah, Haley, right? It's an interesting feeling. And the feeling that stuckness and that heaviness, that is not the energy that we want to be bringing to somebody who potentially wants to change their health and their well-being, who potentially wants to change their life, of themselves and their families. While we're kind of hanging on and trying to show up for them whilst worrying about all of the things behind the scenes. And I saw quite a few things in the hub this week, all about, how do I get more clients? Why isn't my marketing working? What am I doing wrong when I'm talking to people? Maybe I haven't done enough when it's this, or maybe I have to look after all my bookkeeping as well. Does anyone know a bookkeeper? And what happens if I want to run an e-course? Do I do this or do I do this other thing? And what is MailChimp anyway? And, this is a breadth of questions. It's like having a certain bandwidth, and I know it's a bit of a cliche term, but it is like having the internet trying to come through, all of this information in a bandwidth. And when all the kids get, in my household, when all the kids get online and there isn't enough bandwidth for everybody, and so everything slows down. Because one of them's streaming Netflix, another one's streaming some gaming thing. I want to watch my TEDx talk. Herbie's doing some other, catching up on business stuff. And it just goes so slow and it seems so heavy. And because we're filling up this bandwidth with all of the things Who here has, so a couple of you, Alison actually has a background in finance, and about 30% of practitioners actually do have a background in finance or bookkeeping. But many of us don't have a qualification in finance and bookkeeping, right? Many of us don't have a qualification in marketing. Many of us don't have a qualification in so many of the things that we want to be the expert in, and that's the reason that we're not getting clients. But what you'll notice is, if you were to take an audit, now an audit is simply taking stock, and if you were to do an audit of everything that you do in a given day, let alone a week, and this is the challenge for this week, if you're up for it, I want you to, in 15-minute increments, write down what you're doing. What emails are you answering? How are you answering them? What are you looking at on your calendar? What are you doing when it comes to social media? How long are you taking to set up those posts on social media? Are you writing a blog post, and how long has that been taking you to do? Are you toing and froing with somebody around marketing online? Are you learning some new tools when it comes to marketing or website design or development or something like that? And what you'll start to notice is all of these things are done by other people. Many of these things can be done in my family anyway, my kids are actually way better at some of this stuff than I am. And the thing that you are wholly and solely qualified in, better than anybody else, is helping people with your particular modalities and being there as the healer that you are. And the interesting thing is, nobody else can do that for you. But all of these other things, somebody else is out there and has the capacity to do it. Now, I know what you're all thinking. You're like, but I can't afford so-and-so. But I can't afford such and such. I don't have any clients coming in. The thing is, with all of this weight that we have of all of the things that we need to do, you can't afford not to let go of that and actually elevate yourself to you being the professional healer that you are. Otherwise, you're down here asking these people to come in. You're in this survival mode in a really different space. So, if you're up for it, the challenge this week is to write down everything that you're doing in a 24-hour period. Maybe you are bringing in stock, and maybe you are putting the stock on the shelves. Maybe you're putting the prices on it. Maybe you are opening up your clinic. Maybe you're closing. There's a process that you're using for that. All of these things eventually will be able to get delegated. And delegation is to create elevation. And so every time you delegate something that isn't your true calling, and your true calling is as a healer, this is what you were made to do. That's why you were in the healing profession in the first place. And it's unfortunate that all of these delegations, yes, they either take time, effort, energy, or money to delegate them. But once they are slowly but surely delegated, you have the opportunity to elevate how you show up for people, and then they're able to get an amazing experience with you that they're going to share with everybody, and more money comes in so you can delegate more. So when you're taking stock, when you're doing an audit, I want you to write down from where to go. This is what I'm doing this morning. I'm doing this email management, and it's writing up treatment plans and getting those treatment plans back via email. It's answering the, booking in people from the phone calls, from the personal messages, from the DMs, from the, literally writing all of that down. And then what I want you to do is go in with 3 different colors. A green color is what only you can do. What only you can do. Nobody else can do it the same way as you can. So, for instance, writing the treatment protocol for that particular client, that's you. Writing a nutritional plan for them. Nutritional plans can be done by things like That Clean Life, or some other programs. There are some amazing practitioners that do specifically that for clients as well. And so you could actually make that an orange. So we're going green light, orange light, and red light. Red light, when you go through highlighting what you're doing, red lights are the things that stop you in your tracks. They take you ages to do them. You're not getting back to those types of emails. You know the types of emails I'm talking about. They're the ones that you like start, or the ones that you were like, yes, I'll get to that. I'll get back to that. And it's a month down the track and you haven't gotten back to it. Those red ones need to be addressed, because there is somebody on the planet that can do this a million times better than you, and they actually really enjoy it. It's like their gift and their talent. I am not good with details. Ask me more than 3 questions in an email and I will literally shut down. But I've got a VA who loves details, loves answering questions, and even the like smallest of questions, she's there giving huge amounts of information. I'm not like that. I'm here creating, I'm teaching, I'm doing traveling, I'm doing all these other things, and she doesn't want to do any of that. So it's a really cool thing for you to be able to, even before you're ready, recognize the things that you are amazing at, circle them in green, the things that somebody else could do, but you kind of really want to do it, or you think you're better at it than somebody else, and then you may as well do it. Trust me, they change eventually. But orange them. And then reds. You're either not getting to it at all, you're putting it off, it's costing you money, and it might be that shoebox of receipts that are hidden somewhere. It might be the tax from the last 3 years that you haven't done. It might be the social media that you really wanted to do, or that newsletter you really know that you need to get out that you haven't done. Those red ones, it's time to actually stop and acknowledge that they exist. And to the next step, like the extension on that, is that it's very likely you could pay somebody $10 or $20 an hour as a VA, a virtual assistant, to actually get those things done for you. $10 an hour are usually overseas assistants, and $20 to $50 an hour is usually one within our country that would do it for you. And the thing is, in that same amount of time, those things that are holding you down, let's say 4 things that a VA could do that are holding you down, that stop you from showing up the best way you could for a potential client, that stop you from going to that networking event because you think you've got to do all these things half well, or it takes twice as much time. If you were to delegate those, it would free up time for you to actually see a client for $120 an hour, and somebody else in that same space of time is doing the job that would have taken you 6 hours to do for $20. And you are elevating the way that you're showing up. You're elevating your level of professionalism, and that elevates the way that you are able to do your job. So that elevates the amount of money that's coming in, and then you can pay that person to do the things that they're amazing at, and you can do the things that you're amazing at. So what have we got here? Processes are totally important to engage others to do the jobs in a more efficient way. Yeah, the more efficient we are, the closer we get to being elevated in the place and space that we want to be in. Alison says, housework is a red light. Well, to be honest, the second thing that I ever delegated was housework. Number one, for me, my personal experience of this, and I may as well tell you because I like leadership where people are truthful. My number one that I delegated was to a bookkeeper. I didn't know what a bookkeeper was. I didn't know how they differed from an accountant. I just knew that for 3 years I was collecting loads and loads of unopened envelopes of bills and things. They all got paid eventually because it was all in my head how much I owed. But I had unopened bills, unopened receipts, unopened all sorts of things in a box that turned into a filing cabinet that turned into, and I just kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And I didn't think I could afford it. But as soon as I delegated that, I got money back, my BAS got sorted, and I started to get money back on my BAS quarterly because I had registered for GST and I hadn't been making the same amount of money, but I had been investing it in my business. So this flow started happening, and I was able to elevate and do the things that I needed to do that I knew I could do well because I had delegated the bookkeeping. Second biggest thing was the housework, Alison. Handing over once a week to a cleaner to do something that made me show up in a way that was very different to before absolutely was worth it. Otherwise, it was in the back of my mind. It was giving me excuses for procrastinating. It was doing a whole bunch of other stuff behind the scenes that wasn't allowing me to fully show up as me. And when I did, and when I was able to delegate that, game changer. I could show up and I could be happy, and it wasn't, that little monkey on your back. So absolutely, if you can recognize that housework is a red light for you, you can totally afford $30 an hour, 1 hour a week, or 2 hours a fortnight for a cleaner to clean the space, because the space around you is just a reflection of what's going on inside you as well. And if somebody else can do that for you and you have a clear space to create from, whole different feeling about how you show up. That sense of overwhelm and dread and that other stuff that happens in the background isn't there anymore because you've delegated it out. Awesome. Linda Harding, I desperately want a VA. There are virtual assistants all over the place, and they are usually extraordinary women who want to work a lifestyle job for themselves. They've created a business for themselves where it fits within their lifestyle. And so nearly always, they're here in Australia anyway, they're women, they have families, and they want to work from home so that they can spend time with their family. They're usually extraordinarily organized, and they can do amazing work in, I guarantee you, so much shorter time than you think you could do it in. And so this is the other thing about delegating. You're creating jobs for other people. You're creating an environment for somebody else's family to thrive in so that you can thrive as well. I think it's really important when you're considering getting a VA to, just my tips on a VA, is interview them and make sure that they are in alignment with you. Make sure that you're in the same kind of wavelength as them. Show them your red, orange, and green, because it's really hard to get on board a VA unless they know what they need to do and unless you know what you need them to do. So as clear as you can be with what you're currently doing that isn't getting done, they can then go, yep, I can do that bit, and that bit. I don't really have any experience in that, but I'm willing to learn, or that's not my thing, but here's somebody who is really good at that. So if you're considering getting a VA, definitely start interviewing. I found some of my VAs on Instagram. I found them in Facebook groups I've found for references. Sometimes you can use a VA for a project, like I want to get my newsletters up and running, or I want to use MailChimp properly or set up, or maybe Xero set up properly. Or you can use them ongoingly on a thing called a retainer. And for those, you pay for a certain amount of hours per month, and they'll tell you how many hours they've used and how many that is left for other little projects that you might have. But again, do the first process of recognizing what's in your green zone, what's in your orange zone, and what's in that red zone, and find somebody to match the red zone that it feels like a stretch to begin with because you think you can't afford it. But as soon as you do that, if it's coming to mind, I guarantee you are that close to needing that person. And so you may as well take the leap now, because that will share so much bandwidth for you to elevate to the way that you need to be to have the flow in your business that you can have. Alison says, oh, I just tidied my office yesterday and wow, did I achieve and power forward with my projects at the moment. Just cleaning your desk can be some of the most amazing, like feng shui, energy building, space medicine yumminess that you can do in your business. It's amazing, hey? Christine says, Elle Harrison is quite amazing and specializes in naturopathic assistance. Yes, so she's the naturopathic VA. L is. We've also got Belinda Lescu in the hub. She's amazing, extraordinary. And we've also got Chanel Sigmund as well. She's over in Perth. And she does all the yummy behind the scenes as well for things like your website, your newsletters, and everybody's got different experience with different programs. So again, you have to find the person that's going to vibe with you. Very similarly as your clients would, you'd suggest to them to try and find the therapist, the natural therapist that vibes with them. You're going to do the same thing with your team members, and having a team member on board that you can delegate to that feels in alignment, again, elevates you and elevates them and their family as well. Cool. Awesome. So hopefully this has been beneficial, and my challenge to you guys is, if it has, take the action. Just like all of our other trainings, the most important bit is the action. Don't just go, that sounds like a really good idea. I could probably hand over that eventually. Actually take the action. Write down in 15-minute increments in your day, what does it actually look like to be you? And what parts of what you're doing or putting off could be delegated. And at a stretch, if you are already noticing that you can get those things delegated and you've got a spare $20 a week, and in that same amount of time that you're giving that person $20 or some other thing, you've got the potential to make $120 or even more than that, then it's been worth it, and you've created that flow in your life. So if this has been useful to you or anybody else that you can think of who's a practitioner who needs to hear it, please share it. And if you don't want to miss anything, we're here in the Hub on the Naturpreneur Hub Facebook group every Thursday for Training Thursday, or you might want to subscribe to my YouTube channel where these go up later on. All right. Have an amazing rest of the week, and I can't wait to hear your delegating stories and how much that freed up for you to elevate in the space and the place that you are as a healer in this planet. Thanks heaps, everyone. Bye.